Okay, so welcome to the last video for this first unit. So it's video 1.13, operations on directed numbers. Okay, so it's an important term for you to understand. Our learning goal is still that students will be able to solve problems using comparison, addition and subtraction of integers. And at the end of this, you'll be able to carry out simple operations using positive and negative numbers. Alright, so which direction? So let's have a look at how we've seen before our number lines. Okay, so I'm going to bust out a number line here, and we'll have here being my 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Okay, now usually when we're looking at a number line like this and we're doing addition and subtraction of integers, we can see that if we were asked to add one number to the other, you will usually go this way. Okay, so if we're adding, we usually go this way. Alright, if we are subtracting though, let's make that a different colour. If we're subtracting, we would go this way. Might write subtract. And this way is where we add. Okay, but we're going to need to be careful now, because that's only the case if we are adding or subtracting a positive number. Now, you'll see in a moment that when we are adding or subtracting a negative integer, so when adding or subtracting a negative integer, or to say negative number, the operation is reversed. Okay, which means that rather than adding, we actually subtract, and rather than subtracting, we actually add. It's a bit weird. We'll do an activity in class to sort of wrap our minds around kind of how it works and sort of play with some counters and stuff, and hopefully help it settle in our sort of our brains a bit how that works. So because I do understand that it can sort of like twist things around a bit for you. So try and stay with it, knowing that in class we're going to sort of like really cover this in some extra activities and investigations. Okay, right. So some key ideas. Now this is really important. You can use a number line to help with your addition and subtraction. So let's sort of steal my number line from up here. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, that's kind of not working, so I'll just draw another really dodgy one. Here's my 0. Okay, so let's just say you're asked to do maybe 7 minus 9 equals what? What is 7 minus 9? Now, you might not need to do this, and that's okay. But for those of you who are finding this a little bit difficult to start with, please, please, please go for it and use one of these number lines. I want to see them written at the top of your book, maybe written in your exams, anything like that. Any tools you can use like this to help you make things easier for you, go for it, okay? So the way that you'd go about this is you just say, okay, so if here's 0, 7, let's just make 7 here. 7's here. Now, if I'm taking, that means I'm going to start here at 7, and I'm going to be moving this way. Okay, and I'm going to be moving this way 9. Okay, so that means I'm going to go 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2. And so you count 9 places down your number line that you've drawn out, and you'll see that I get to negative 2. So use your number lines, draw them out, make as much use of it as you can, because I don't want you to be thinking, oh, I shouldn't need to use that. But you know, there's no problems with using your number lines if it's going to help you in the end. Okay? Right. Now, as I said before, we need to be really careful with negative integers. Okay? So this idea that when the number that's being operated on is a negative, things kind of go crazy. Okay, so as we had before, 7 minus 9 was negative 2. That's fine. You start at 7, you take away 9. Now, if it was 7 minus negative 9, okay? Now, because we have this negative sign in here, okay, it means that this subtraction sign here is going to become an addition instead, and we're going to drop this here, okay? So we can rewrite it. I want you to rewrite the operation as, I'll do a different color. This will be 7 plus 9 instead, which is 16. Okay, so see how these two things are radically different. Okay, so you need to be very, very careful about that. Now, same thing happens, same thing changes with our additions as well. So if I had 4 plus 3, that's 7, obviously. But if I had 4 plus negative 3, because of the presence of this negative number, that means that this plus is going to change to a minus, and this is going to go. And so we'll rewrite it as 4 minus 3, which is 1. Okay, so you really, really need to be careful of that. And as I said at the start of the video, we're going to be having a look at that in class very closely in some activities and things, so you can really start to play with it, really sort of, get it gelled in your mind. Okay, so please don't freak out too much. You'll have plenty of time to practice sort of how that works. Okay, now some rules to remember for multiplication and division. Okay, so when we multiply and divide positive and negative numbers, some interesting things happen. Okay, so if I have 3 times 6, that's going to be 18. Yep. Now, if I had negative 3 times 6, that's a negative amount of 3 times 6. So that means I'm going to have negative 18 to finish with. Okay? Now, if I have 3 times negative 6, I'm going to get still negative 18 because I had 3 lots of negative 6. Now, here's where it gets kind of crazy. Is the idea that if I have negative 3 times negative 6, because I've got a negative amount times by a negative amount, those negatives kind of cancel out and we're left with 18. Okay? Kind of want you to think about it that a negative amount has the ability to flip the final number from being positive to negative, or vice versa. Okay? So see how in this one here, no, all positives, so we're going to end up with an all positive answer. One of them's negative, so it flips the answer to become a negative. One of them's negative, so it flips the answer becoming negative. Both of them are negative, so it's kind of like you got flipped to a negative by this one, but then flipped back to a positive from this one. Kind of, okay? If you want to think about it like that, that's totally fine. Now, the same thing happens for division, okay? So that maybe 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2. 12 divided by negative 6 is equal to, I might put brackets there, is equal to negative 2. Negative 12 divided by 6 is equal to negative 2. And negative 12 divided by negative 6 is equal to positive 2. Okay, so kind of crazy there. Now, I'll just sort of write out these sort of rules for you here, and they're going to be, so if we have a positive times a positive, we're going to end up with a positive answer. If we have a negative times a positive, we're going to have a negative answer. If we have a positive times a negative answer, if we have a positive times a negative, we're going to have a negative answer. And if we have a negative times a negative, we're going to have a positive answer. Okay, so another way to think about it is if the signs are the same of the two numbers, when you're multiplying and dividing, that's going to be positive. Okay, see positive, positive, positive. See the negatives and positives, they create a negative, but if they're both negative, we get a positive out in the end. Okay, and this is the same for division. Okay, so if we have positive divided by positive number, we get a positive answer. If we had a negative divided by a positive number, we get a positive answer. If we have a positive divided by a negative number, we're going to get a negative answer. I don't know what I've done here, because negative divided by a positive is a negative answer. Dear me, trying to go a bit too fast, because I understand this video is going a bit long. And finally, if I have negative divided by a negative number, we're going to get a positive answer. Okay, so it's really important that we sort of remember those kind of rules. I don't like things sort of devolving into remembering rules, but sometimes, for instance, with this kind of thing, it does help a lot. Okay, so again, we will be having a look at this stuff a bit more in depth in class with some activities and things, and you'll have plenty of chance to practice this stuff out. Okay, so that's the end of our stuff for this entire term, and this unit is done. So if you're finished this video and finished the exercises for this, make sure that you're negotiating with me some extra and more interesting stuff to do than what we've been having a look at so far. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you at school. Thanks.